Hi, my name is Dr. Dan Cooper. I am here for Revolution After Dust-Off as well as Rad Life Clinic here in Tampa, Florida. I'm here to give you some tips on 17.2. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through what the workout is, then we're going to show you some things to prepare for the workout, open up those movement patterns so you can better achieve the movements, and then I'm going to give you some tips for recovering from the beatdown. So the workout, we've got 2 rounds of a 50-foot dumbbell rack lunge. Then you're going to go into 16 toes to bar. Coming off the bar, you're going to get into 8 dumbbell cleans for 2 rounds. Then you're going to go into those same 50-foot dumbbell rack lunges, except instead of the toes to bars, you're going to be doing bar muscle ups. Then from the bars, you're going back to the cleans. So the only thing that's changing is the bar muscle ups and the toes to bars. So let's look at the movements. With the dumbbell lunges, one of the things you don't want happening in these lunges is for your body to collapse forward. So part of our opening exercises to open these movement patterns is going to be to open the front of the torso so you're not getting tugged forward by tight tissues in the front. So the first thing we're going to hit with that is going to be triceps and lats. Triceps and lats, they cross each other in a connection in the armpit. The lats, though, they interdigitate into your thoracolumbar fascia, which is a big strap of connective tissue on your low back. So when you bring those arms up, if you have tight lats, it will tug on that TL fascia and pull you forward. We don't want that. So that'll be our first stretch. Then you've got toes to bars and muscle ups. Both things where you're going to want a violent explosion forward, but also you need to be able to open up to get a good backswing so you can get a good whip. So we need to open up hip flexors as well as the abs. And there is your forearms. Your forearms are going to be smoked during this workout, so we're going to limber those guys up first as well. So let's start with the first stretch. This is for the triceps as well as the lats. It's a modification of something called the puppy dog stretch. So he's going to, this is our Vanna White here, Josh, is going to demonstrate for us. He gets into the puppy dog first, extending the upper arms. Then he's cranking the forearms into elbow flexion and externally rotating at the same time. He's showing a nice variation there where he's alternating sides just to hit the spots that feel tightest to him. And that's what you should do as well. Any modification you do to these stretches are totally cool. You want to make the stretch customized to you. So if you feel something a little different angle, make sure you do that. Okay, that was triceps and lats. Now for the abs and hip flexors. First one we'll do is a bit of a combo. The lunge, let's do the lunge first. Generally for hip flexors, we're going to throw an extra movement in there to add in some torso. So the lunge takes a step forward, knee does not go past the toes. If you'll notice, his torso is upright, so for him to get farther into this stretch, there's no movement with the torso this way, it all stays in line, he just presses forward as a unit. Now to increase this stretch and bring it into the torso, he's going to put an arm up. I'll pretend like I'm a rack. You can do this against any of the racks in the gym. And as he presses forward, he's getting a lat in there as well. Okay. Obviously, you're going to do both sides. It looks the same, it's just the other way. And now a straight ab stretch is going to be the cobra. Easy one. Flop down, forearms posted, and you're drawing yourself forward so that you're getting an elongation as well as that extension in the front of the abs. You can, if you're uber flexible, you can straighten the elbows as well. If you get a little pinch in the low back with that one, stick with the forearms and just draw forward more. That's abs. Now the forearms. You're holding on to the bar quite a bit for this workout, so forearms are going to be smoked. With stretches, all these stretches are being held for short periods of time. If you're counting seconds, 3 to 5 seconds is about how long you should be holding these stretches. You can come out of them, give yourself a little wiggle, go back into the stretch. But when you're preparing for workouts, you don't want to do really long stretches because it decreases your power output. So short stretches just to get the movement patterns mobile and then move on. So for the forearms, this is going to be a stretch that you're going to want to hold for a while just because it feels great. So we'll give you a neurological primer to do after the fact. So this one, super simple. Grab your fingers, extend the elbow while you're pulling back in the fingers. This will be for the forearm flexors. Then for the forearm extensors, you're gonna make a fist, roll it back, grab it with the other hand on top of the fingers, and then pull a little farther. So to prime it after the fact, you can either slap it or give it shakes, but the quick movements will bring you into a place of ready for work as opposed to that sleepy place of too much stretching. Okay, now we're gonna move into the neurological primers. First one we're gonna do is kind of a combo. It's for the hip adductors and abductors. You're doing lunges. That's a open movement where the knee has space to move. So you need to stabilize with the pelvic stabilizers. So I just call them hip swings. All we're doing is standing. Most people will probably want to hold on to something unless you have awesome balance. And then you're swinging the leg back and forth, bouncing off the end ranges. Now what you're not doing, or you're trying not to do, is turn the pelvis, because you're really trying to stretch this lateral glute. If you turn the pelvis, you're not stretching it at all. So you just swing it, throwing it off the end ranges until it feels good, and then switch to the other side. Now, for our next primer is going to be for the extensor chain of the torso. So like we talked about with the lunges, you don't really want to let yourself fall forward. You're wasting so much energy, and we're doing this for time and for numbers, so you don't want to waste energy. The extensors are going to be the thing that holds you then upright. So now we've opened the front end, so we have that space available. Now to prime the muscles to keep you upright, we're going to do what I call a plow touch. What it is, you sit and then roll back, kick off with your feet, push back with your hands into the next roll, rock back and forth around 5 times. Again, go with what feels good to you, and come on up. Okay, so that was a primer for the extensors. The next primer is going to be for the bracing mechanism. Now with almost all these movements actually, you've got the lunges where you want to have this very stiff core. I don't want to say rigid, but you want a stiff core so that you can move the legs and not collapse, right? Now that is done through the bracing mechanism with the toes to bar as well as the muscle ups. When you're in this extension and then you want to throw the legs, if you throw the legs on a floppy core, you're going to have to use a lot more energy. You're not going to be able to develop as much velocity. So you need a strong core. Now to make that core solid, you brace. The bracing mechanism is the activation of all of your abdominal muscles at once, and you've got transverse abdominis that crosses across the front in a lateral direction. Then you've got obliques that come in at angles. When you hit them all at once, it does a cinching mechanism, kind of squashing your guts and making a less compressible cylinder in the middle. So now you've got this stiff core to use your limbs on. So that's what we're going to prime with this movement, which is super simple. If you've ever coughed, you've done it. So if you'll cough now, that movement that just happened in the core, that's the bracing. So you're going to do that 5 times. And it's just a pursed lip, just like that. And you may find yourself getting a little hot. That's how you should feel when you do this. Okay, those are our primes. And now we will move into how to recover most effectively from this assault on your body. Okay, now for the recovery. So now you're smoked and you need to know what to do about it. So some of the most effective stretches for these movements are going to be similar to what we prepped with. Now, your hip flexors and abs are probably really smoked from the toes to bar as well as the muscle ups. So let's start with that one. Now the hip flexor stretch that we did in the beginning, it will be the same thing. Now that you're already tired and you've used your muscles, you've kind of felt where they're most tight, you might get a better idea of which specific angle you want to be at when you're stretching, but we'll go through them again. So you go into a lunge. Knee doesn't go past the toe. Whole torso and pelvis comes forward together as a unit with an upright torso. You can raise an arm, press against the rig, or if you don't have a rig or you don't feel like using the rig, you can also rotate away from the back leg. So he's going to then rotate over or come neutral and then this direction. Try them both, see which one hits you hardest or hits you in the right spot, and that's the one you use. Again, the cobra. So flop back down, face down, post up on the forearms, extend into your cobra, draw forward, and feel those crazy tight abs, and use the angle that works best for you to stretch the abs. Next one, let's do brachioradialis. So you did a bunch of really hard yanking with that muscle up. Or if you scaled and did pull-ups, still, overhand grip, pulling, brachioradialis is going to be nice and tight. Great way to stretch this one is to, it's kind of like you're pointing at something out to the side. you're gangster shooting somebody. You've got a rig or a friend, whatever it is, and then you're pressing your torso away. You should feel it across the top of the forearm here and then into the bicep and the backside of the bicep where the brachioradialis lies. Okay, now we've got foam rolling for glutes, quads, and low back. So we're gonna grab a foam roller. So for low back, this one is what you would expect. Okay, go neutral, so you're facing straight up. And then roll on down to like mid-torso. You'll notice that you don't really feel like you're hitting many muscles. You're really not. As soon as you take a little bit of a side roll, now you start blasting those erectors on the side. You get the quadratus lumborum, some of the multifidus, all those stabilizers of the low back start getting hit pretty hard. You'll go from the top of the pelvis to where it's comfortable on the ribs. Once you get in the floating ribs, kind of feels terrible. So see where you can go. But we're gonna limber those up with foam roller. Then the glutes. He sits on the foam roller. If you're gonna start with piriformis, which is how I do it, if you wanna do this side, so we'll put this ankle up on the other knee. There you go. You rotate slightly toward the side that you've got the knee up, or the ankle up, and then you rock back and forth. The extent on this one's shorter, just because the pelvis is shorter than the low back. You go essentially to the top of the pelvis to the bone you sit on, the ischial tuberosity. And you're gonna continue rolling toward that knee as you're going back and forth until you feel like you're kind of off the piriformis, which you'll notice. Then he puts that leg down, brings the other one over, and continues the roll. Then you hit that super lateral stabilizer, the glute medius, and you can continue rolling or scooting, depending on how long your foam roller is, to get to the front of the hip. This one will probably be a hot spot for you, or at least one that feels very productive. That's how I like to say productively painful. Now you're on, this is the hip flexor attachments. You can rock out on the core or the quad from here. And do all angles of the quad. If you roll out straight from there, you're gonna be right on the front of the quad, hit the inside, hit the outside. And when you find hot spots, you can take a little time, give them little micro pumps, and then get back to the full length rolls. Good. Did we show them the couch stretch? Let's hit that one. So this is one for the hip flexors as well. It's a stretch. If for some reason you don't like the lunge or it didn't work for you that great, couch stretch is another one. It hits the rectus femoris pretty hard, which is one of the hip flexors that is in your quad. It's a middle quad muscle. So this one, knees down on something soft. Concrete feels terrible. So he's got some pretty good flexibility there. The foot or ankle, if you're doing it actually on a couch, your ankle will kind of be up on the top of the backrest. You're keeping your torso and your quad in line. And so as you press back, you're not extending, you're bringing the whole thing back as a unit. And you should feel a crazy stretch on the front of the quad. Okay, forearms. Your forearms are blasted after this. The crossball in hand. So that you can do the same stretches that we did before. Fingers down, pull, fingers fisted, pull. But then, rock it with a lacrosse ball. It's nice on the floor. You can do it on a countertop, whatever you want. It's a little less easy on a wall. But give yourself some rolls on all of the sides of the forearms. You can roll it as you're going back and forth, hit different roll angles, and you'll find the ones that are terrible for you or need the most work. And same thing on the flexor side. Those are the recovery mobilizations / stretches that your heavy hitters post 17.2. Thanks for watching.